is on attention, concentration, and focus. And so we'll talk about what is that. The objective is to learn those three terms. I was telling Kyle that we use these terms interchangeably all the time. And so what is attention, concentration, and focus? Because some people tell you to focus and pay attention and, hey, let's concentrate. And it's like, well, what are all the differences? And it's, there's really no exact definition because you're going to hear 100 opinions. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to manage your energy and deal with distractions and learn some simple routines. And I want to hear your routine as well. And we'll talk about those situations where I know that you've been in, and I have too, where you start getting that little rise of tension and frustration, and you blow your top. And how can you recover and get back to dealing with the moment at hand? And then I'm going to give you some exercises that are kind of cool. And one of them I tried yesterday, and I went, this is really neat. And some of this stuff came from Russia. And they believe that your consciousness is controlled by yourself. So if you don't have self-control, who's controlling your consciousness? And whoever's controlling your consciousness is controlling your attention. And I go, self-control. The Russians said if you don't have self-control, then someone else is in control of you and you have no freedom. So I say your attention span's these radials coming out. And this gentleman's about to shoot an arrow. And the bow here is your concentration zone. So you take that attention span that's wide and you narrow it down to a concentration zone. So we got this, the attention span is that he's in the room, and then he narrows it down to that concentration zone when he is about to shoot. So he's in preparation, so he's got a routine that he's doing at that point, and he's still scanning, he can still be distracted at this point. And then when he goes to release, he takes that big deep breath like you do when you're about to pitch, and that centers him, gives him the oxygen he needs to focus in the moment with a laser beam focus on that target, and then he releases that arrow. And I say that's his focal point. It's just that narrow beam. So it goes from really wide scan to a medium scan to just a laser beam scan. Have you ever thought of it that way?
I never have, but now that you talk about it, I can really see what you're talking about. You were talking about the concentration being the preparation kind of, and that's similar to being on the field. You got to get ready, getting your ready step. You mean taking your right foot forward and getting ready for the ball to come, and then you're getting ready for that ground ball coming to you. So that is the preparation. So that ties in well. I never pictured it in that sense, but.
Yeah, and I drew it out in a circle here too, like a funnel. So your attention is wide, it's a big scan, and then your concentration is more of this. It's a smaller, more narrow scan that's still going on, and you're aware of things. Your situational awareness is still really good within that concentration zone or lane, or the Russian psychology said cocoon, the concentration cocoon. And then when you focus, now you're in this kind of red zone. It's like your sights of a gun are on the deer. So yeah, your attention, high situational awareness. You know what's going on. You know you could hear a pin drop because you're so in tune, and especially on the good days.
Oh, on the good days, definitely.
Now, if you're in a lane of responsibility, let's say you're going to shoot a free throw, now that's more that concentration zone or lane, and it's actually painted on the ground for you. Okay, when you're shooting a free throw, it's time to concentrate. My attention has been narrowed down to those lines. And then when you shoot, now you've got this external focus of attention, which, by the way, there's internal and external. And the external, the finding and research by Dr. Wolf, who said that an external focus of attention is more efficient movements and better energy management. And energy management is key because they have found that you can only concentrate on a certain point for about 5 seconds. So when you're shooting a basketball free throw, uh, and you're zoned in that laser beam focus, because you go from attention to concentration to laser beam focus. You're targeted. You're aiming. Now you take that deep breath in preparation, to enter that external focus of attention, and you shoot. And your situational awareness is going to be narrowed down to not very much at that point, except for that point. You're so focused on it, and that's in the moment. And I think a lot of times when you read a lot of literature or you hear people say in the moment, you hear that a lot, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, be in the moment, be in the moment. What does that really mean? Because in the moment could be, I need to know what's going on all around me. Or in the moment, I need to know what's just going on from between me and the pitcher. In the moment means I'm laser beam focused on shooting that basketball or waiting for the ball to be pitched to me.
One of my coaches, that's one of his big things, and he says, be here now.
Yeah.
That's his one thing. Instead of, be focused, he said, be where your feet are, be here right now. That's all your concentration, your focus, all that. He said, be here right now. So
and where is he saying to do that? When you're getting ready to bat?
It could be get ready to bat, but specifically in the field. You know what I mean? You don't want to be thinking about other stuff. You want to think about what could happen, and then when the pitch is about to be pitched, you got to be there at that moment. Nothing else matters in the world.
What do you do to keep yourself continuously thinking? Okay, because you're out there in the outfield. You play left. Right?
I start at third, but I play a little right field as well.
Okay, so you're out in right field. You're on third, and third, you're a little bit more kind of in that concentration.
Oh yeah, and especially like my scholarship's as a catcher, so definitely as a catcher, it's not hard to. You have to stay focused in, obviously, but being out in the field, I've never really struggled with staying focused, just because I know I always, as a kid, I remember coaches saying to me, focus, keep your mind on it, and always think of the next play.
Yeah.
Always, while you're sitting there doing nothing, think about what could happen, think about the possibilities, the different situations, and always have that stuff worked out already in your mind, so that if it happens, it's second nature for your body just to do it. Your brain just has to tell your body to do it. Your brain's ready to go. Your body's waiting. So.
Sweet. I drew this out also. I don't know if this is even showing up in there, but I got a baseball field, and so basically taking that same analogy with the basketball, attention would be that you know what's going on in the entire field. Concentration would be you're kind of into the infield, and then when you're into that laser beam, now it's just between you and the mound, the pitcher's mound, and it can go here, out, and in seconds, and you got to know when. So you could be in the moment here because you need to know what's going on everywhere. You could be in the moment here as well, just in the concentration area. I'm concentrating just between here and first base and third, and second, just that diamond. And then in the moment, now I'm laser beamed in the moment right now. Locked in. And I like to bring in the process and performance and outcome, because that's how goal setting goes, and I like to apply that to sports psychology. So I like to say that when you're in that concentration zone or lane, you are preparing, doing a routine, and you start going through that. I like to call it grit, and I've got a little slide here to show you about that. Let's skip over that one part about losing your temper. We'll get back to that later. So grit, as you know, is that mental toughness, but it also can be goal setting. So when you're about to bat, or you're about to pitch, or you're about to catch as a catcher, you've got a little goal, you're automatically thinking about goals. And then you've got to do that self-regulation we've talked about, where you take that deep belly breath, get it deep. It kind of cleanses your body, and it also gives you oxygen too.
It calms you. It really just calms you.
Yeah. And your brain needs that oxygen for clarity, because I think of when you're ready to go into that laser beam focus, that you need as much oxygen as you can get, and your muscles need it too. And like you said, it calms you, which, according to some literature, that calms the right side of the brain, which actually controls your imagery and your fine motor skills. So fine motor skills is so important for sports, especially when you're about to bat, or when you're pitching. It's not brute force. It's got some fineness to it, and I think that's the reason that people miss basketball goals when they're, the whole gym is focused on that one player shooting that free throw. That's a lot of pressure, and that if they don't take that centering, that really deep breath, then they're not going to get it out, and they're going to be tense, and the muscle's going to be tight, and they're going to miss. So that's the R, regulation. And I also like to add on regulation, because I know you eat well, and there's a lot of people who don't.
Right.
Our whole society. So that plays into that energy management. Your brain needs good food to think, and also it helps you regulate your body. And then imagery. Tell me about imagery when you're about to bat.
Well, for me, imagery starts the night before, or sometimes weeks before. Even now, the season isn't until February, March, and I'm already imagining myself at night in the mirror with the bat. But at any time, it's sitting there in class. It's imagining getting that opportunity to get up the plate with the bases loaded, or what am I going to do if I have a guy on first and second with no outs? Am I going to bunt him over? Am I going to get the bunt down? But yeah, stepping up to the plate and in the dugout. But to be honest with you, the imagery for me, it shuts off by the time I leave the dugout. When I get to the on-deck circle, I'm getting loose, and then by the time I leave the on-deck circle, there's no more thinking for me. For me, then on, I've prepared myself. I'm mentally prepared. My body should be ready. When I get to the plate, I take my deep breath. My mind's cleared. When I step into the plate, I see where the outfielders are, just to know what the situation could become. That's the concentration. Exactly. I got to know if I hit a ball in the gap. If they have, I'm a big left-handed hitter. If they have a guy shifted over, I may not be able to get two, or I may be able to get three if they shift way over and I can get one down the line. So it's that last look and then take the deep breath. So imagery for me is there's no timetable on it. It starts.
You were telling me last year that you kind of see where the ball is going.
Oh yeah, in my mind, I'd love to be able to sit here and be like, okay, I see what kind of pitcher he is. I'm like, okay, he's throwing a lot of outside fastballs. I'm a big guy. He's gonna be outside. And then in my mind, I see myself getting that hit. I see myself staying inside the ball, getting into the line.
And you're doing that while you're right here on the dugout.
Oh yeah, I do it in the dugout. I mean, especially getting to see the pitcher.
So
and
this
a little bit
this is your preparation zone right here.
Oh yeah, this and then really on the on deck circle, that's that moment where you're like, it's that last look you get of him on somebody else, and you really get a good look at a pitcher. Especially when they bring in a new pitcher, they always say, get your eyes on the pitcher, see what's going on, and you get a feel for it. And then I kind of see what he's throwing, and I can imagine myself, what can I do with this? I mean, am I going to get walked? Can I get a bunt down? What do I need to do for my team here? So.
And really, when you're in the dugout, you're on the field, really. Like we were talking about a while ago, that you got to have that situational awareness. Yeah, you're not on the field, but right now you're in that kind of state where you can gain a lot of information.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the bigger differences between and I'm not going to say great ball players and good ball players, but at the high school level, the players who succeed a little bit more, it may not always be because of talent, maybe for their love of the game or their focus on the game. Because there's guys in the dugout that have a lot of talent that are always goofing off, and there's a time to goof off, and there's a time not to goof off. And sometimes you need to watch your pitcher figure it out, and then you can laugh and have some fun with your teammates. But stay focused in. And really, like you were saying, the view on the field, really, the dugouts are a part of the field, and anything outside of the dugouts in the field doesn't matter during the game. And that's one thing that some players might struggle with a little bit, is letting their focus kind of drift off here and there. But
yeah, I've seen that when I've watched some of the games. And the last on this grit thing, so we got goal setting, regulation, imagery, and then talk. And I like to say positive self-talk. I know sometimes maybe negative self-talk, you need to kick yourself in the butt with some instructional. But most of the time, I say you probably want positive, motivational self-talk. What kind of self-talk do you?
My biggest self-talk is where I get my confidence from is just hitting in the cage by myself. I'm not the most athletic baseball player. Wasn't given the most talents, but I get my courage or my faith in myself from the amount that I put in the cage. So my self-talk is, hey Kyle, you know what? You can look out on this field and you've prepared more than anybody else out here. That's my self-talk is, hey, you were in that cage last week or last night at 11 o'clock at night when everybody else was sleeping, or I get up before school on game days or most days of the week and hitting the cage. I'm like, hey, you were in the cage at 6:45 this morning hitting, and that's where I get my self-talk is like, hey, you've put in the work. You just gotta go out there and do it now. There's nothing stopping you. So.
Yeah, I'm a big preparation guy.
Oh yeah.
And everything that I do, and I've also learned that yeah, you plan, but most of the time the plan is going to be it's it's not going to be the plan that
No.
you use. You're going to have to pull out backup plan number A, B, and C. But you do have those backups for
Oh, yeah.
contingencies. But you got to walk out the field with something. So I like to say your plan is a starting point to adapt from, because you're going to start adapting right off the get go.
Immediately.
And you know, you said something a while ago because Dr. McGuire, he's a big sports psychologist, and he worked out at Missouri. He said focus is a choice. And what you just said, when the players are goofing off in the dugout, that's a choice to goof off and not be in the moment to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so I salute you, Cal, for that. And you've always impressed me. And I know you're going to go really far. But you're going to, it doesn't matter. It's going to happen. So there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can control is yourself. And that's your attitude, effort, and focus. Or your awareness and your concentration. So how do you stay centered and away from those distractions?
I guess
What
really
else?
it's for me so much it's never been a problem just because of my love for it and the way I was brought up and my dad and watching him and how he would act in the dugout as a coach for me and the older guys that I watched coming up and how they focused and then watching the pros and watching going to an Auburn baseball game or going to the college games and watching the better players and how they like picture themselves in a game and how they act in the dugouts and how they act around the field. That's for me, and I was always like, this is something that in my mind, I put in a lot of work for this. I've hit in the cage. I've already had an elbow surgery. I've had shoulder surgery. I've had all this stuff. There's been so much to go into it. Why wouldn't I want to focus? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's my thing is.
So it's just like noise, whatever.
Yeah, to me, I've never really had a big problem with distractions.
What gets that emotion going to where you feel like you're about to lose control?
In a bad situation or in a good situation?
Bad. Well, it can go either way. So it could be either good or bad because, I mean, you could get over aroused from something good happening,
Right.
and now you're just like you miss
Right.
the next play because of that.
I mean, I think one big thing that I struggled with, I look back to my sophomore year, and it was the first week of the season. I had just come off having the surgery, and I was at third base, and I'd made one error, and then I beat myself up, and I didn't let it go like you're supposed to, and then I made another error, and then two batters later, I made a dumb mistake. There was a guy on first, and for some reason I thought there was a guy on second, and I tagged third, and everybody just looks at me, and I was thinking there was a guy on second because I wasn't locked in and focused. So, yeah, it really just all ties itself together, me getting too over aroused and angry at myself and not getting past that, it caused me to lose my concentration and focus and stuff. So
Yeah, so you were mad at yourself.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
most of the time in baseball, you're really mad at yourself. I mean, occasionally people get mad at umpires. Of course, I'm not real big on that. And then of course in baseball, you get mad at like I was in a bad collision at home plate this year. I received a concussion and busted my eye and stuff. So stuff like that gets you mad, or when you're batting and you get hit. I got hit 3 times in a game this year and exchanged a few words with a pitcher. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, that's just kind of the basics of
I
baseball.
mean, those things are going to happen. So, light analogy, which is kind of cool because when you got a green light, everything's cool and groovy.
Right.
That's not I think that's when people get complacent too. That's when I'm on the green light, man. I'm high alert. It's like, all right, something's going to happen.
Yeah. And in baseball, that happens to a lot of guys. Everything starts going good. I had a buddy who started the season off batting .420. Started the season off, and every day I'd be like, hey, man, you want to go hit? And he'd be like, no, I'm good, dude. My swing's good. By the end of the season, he ended up batting like .214 just because he was too complacent with himself. Everything was going smooth. And
He's
then,
in that green light.
then we get to almost the playoffs and back half of the season, and he was like, hey, you want to go hit? And I was like, sure. And he starts stressing out, you know what I mean? And then he gets to the playoffs, and he put too much pressure on himself and couldn't produce.
So then he just choked.
Oh, yeah.
So this traffic light analogy can apply to a lot of things in sports psychology, but this is more of like that heat of the moment. The ref is, just done a bad call, and everyone's getting emotional in the stands, and so you come out of that green light. Now you're in the yellow because you're getting that little tense feeling and that little frustration, which I know I've had many times. That's when Ned Lynch starts ranting. And then it goes full alert, red light. It's time to stop. And that's almost like just take yourself out of the game at that point. because you're so angry and you're almost like shaking yourself.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, not gonna happen. Anyway, so that's the traffic light analogy. Hey, this video is probably getting a little long, so let's just talk quickly, and I can show you this at my house one day too. Some exercises to improve your concentration and your focus. And of all the people I know, Kyle, you've got this down, but you can always improve. We always have that growth mindset.
Yes, sir.
There's this switching attention thing, because you've got to be able to quickly switch your attention. And what you can do is you can take like two Bose radios, which I set up, because Bose has that digital, so you can set the sound exactly the same. I measured 5 feet in either direction, and you sit between them and you put two songs on the same volume, and now you got to go take your mind and concentrate on that one song, and then 20 seconds later switch back to the other song and go back and forth. Do that about 5 minutes a few times a week, and that can improve that ability to switch your attention. Another one for concentration is they say focus on like do you have one of those old watches that tick? You sit there and watch and try to zone in and focus on that. I've also heard of taking a raisin and sitting there and just looking at a raisin and analyzing it and all that. It kind of sounds weird, but they're just trying to get you to zone in. I mean, specificity, you could come out here and just no one out here, and you could just concentrate on the mound. That's one technique, just for that. And like about the deep breathing and the mindfulness breathing, and that's when you can kind of just sit there and do that. And for like 3 or 4 minutes, just focus on your breath. That's the same kind of. It's teaching your brain to just concentrate and zone in on the spot. And then they have this grid exercise, which I'll give you a copy of some of the grids, but it's a piece of paper with a matrix with numbers all over it, and you first start out at 0, and you've got to sit there and find 1, and you got to do a scan and find 2, and you cross them out. So you're going from like the piece of paper is your attention span, and then you narrow down to concentrating on looking for the next number. And as soon as you find the number, now you zone in and focus on it and cross it out. And you got any questions for me?
I mean, I love the idea of putting the grid acronym in, and you really showed how the baseball field, the concentration all the way down to the focus, and I really hadn't viewed it like that, and that gave me something to think on for a little bit. And
yeah, think about that.
Because it's not just the field. There's so many different situations you can put it in, from the batting to the pitcher to the getting ready before the pitch, and there's so many things you can tie it in. And you can tie it into several different sports. You can tie it into, I know, football and basketball as well.
Yeah. And I don't want to distract you from your own processes, but you're always looking for ways to get better, and I'm always looking for ways to improve this idea of it.